through the double doors to either side of the building. And I'd like to start our meeting by reading our mission statement. The Cornwall Central School District is committed to working together with the community to provide a secure and nurturing environment of diverse learning opportunities for all students. It is our goal to help students achieve their dreams and aspirations and to prepare them to confidently face challenges while promoting the strength of mind, body, and character. And before we get into the bulk of our meeting, I just want to acknowledge that tonight's meeting falls after sundown on a holy Jewish holiday, and this was an oversight and purely unintentional. We recognize the importance of being mindful of the diverse religious observances in our community, and we regret the impact this may have caused. I promise we will be more mindful in the future about our scheduling decisions, and we know it's important that we're aware of, the religious observations within our own community. So, with that, I would like to open up the microphone for recognition of visitors. The Board of Education welcomes comments from the public. Each person wishing to speak is asked to speak into the microphone, identifying themselves and respectfully limiting their comments to 3 minutes. 2 opportunities to speak are available. One early in the meeting, which will be limited to 30 minutes, and one at the end of the meeting. Each speaker may address the board only once at both of the opening and closing portions of the agenda. Please remember there will be no cross-dialogue between speakers and members of the board. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene language, libelous statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. Persons wishing to discuss matters involving individual district personnel or students should present those comments and/or concerns to the superintendent during regular business hours. Do we have any comments? You can step up to the microphone. If you could just state your name. Right, it's on the end right here. Sorry, I can't. Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kristen Koch. I'm a parent in the district. Good evening. I just wanted to voice my support for the message shared by Interim Superintendent Argenio. At its heart, this letter is about humanity, kindness, and teaching our children to think critically while treating others with respect. It reminds us that disagreement is natural, but violence and hatred can never be acceptable responses. Those who protest this letter are, in effect, protesting the very values of empathy, compassion, and leadership by example. Our children are watching us closely. Let us show them that even in hard times, we choose courage, understanding, and kindness. That is the community I want to be a part of, and I know many of you feel the same. If we cannot stand together for kindness, then we are teaching our children to stand for nothing at all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so this is our first meeting with our new student representatives. Welcome, Jocelyn and Maeve. We're so happy to have you. I will turn the microphone over to whichever one of you would like to start.
My name's Jocelyn, high school senior. I'm really excited to be here with you guys. We are so happy to be back to school at Willow Avenue. Our kindness crew and PTO welcomed our students back with music and smiles on the first day of school. Our students and teachers have been busy creating their classroom communities and learning what it means to be a good friend. Ms. Sowacki, our social worker, has been visiting the classrooms talking about DASA in teaching a lesson on our monthly character traits of patience. Ms. Buckholtz is visiting all of our classes and meeting with grade levels to talk about friendship, patience, and responsibility, and teaching our little dragons ways to sprinkle kindness like confetti around Willow. Our Willow Spotlight has begun on our sensational 4th graders, highlighting 2 4th graders each week. We were very excited to welcome our families to Willow for open house on the 17th. Families have the opportunity to visit their students' classrooms and to meet their teachers. We will end the month with our very first Friday morning opening where we will review our classroom, our September character trait with a presentation from our 4th graders, celebrating our new friendships and our new school year. We are off to a great start at Willow, and we are looking forward to a successful school year.
Hi, I'm Maeve. I'm also very happy to be with you guys today. Thank you so much. Good news from Cornwall and Hudson. At COH, the school year has gotten off to a great start. It began with the annual PTO play held on Wednesday, September 3rd. The turnout was fantastic. Students gathered in the back of the school and played with new and old friends. Students and staff have made a smooth transition back to school. This year's schedule has provided opportunities for classroom teachers to collaborate with special area teachers to plan enrichment in art, library, and music. Staff will be focused on student engagement and specific learning expectations. Much like last year, every class has scheduled time with an ed tech to support STEAM and blended learning. Open house was held on Wednesday, September 17th. There was a tremendous turnout. Parents and guardians spent the evening listening to teachers explain their plans and expectations for their children during the school year. COH will hold its first Spirit Day on September 26th. We are hoping the classrooms and hallways are filled with students and staff wearing green and white. The first Friday morning opening assembly and principals awards will take place for students and parents on September 26th, followed by the first PTO meeting. We are looking forward to welcoming parents back to help celebrate their children's success.
More good news from Cornwall Elementary School. September has been a very busy month at Cornwall Elementary School. We kicked off our year with our PTO carnival on September 12th. Mr. Tremont and Miss Ganillo volunteered in the water bucket and pie in the face booth. Students, families, and staff had a fantastic evening. CES also welcomed families back to school with our annual open house on Wednesday, September 17th. We will be launching our PBIS initiative for the new school year on Thursday, September 25th. Cheerleaders from Cornwall Central High School and Cornwall Elementary School PTO will join the festivities. We are looking forward to an exciting and successful year at Cornwall Elementary School.
Good news from Cornwall Central Middle School. We have had an amazing opening to our school year. Many thanks to our teachers and staff for all the work and preparation to welcome back our students. CCMS is abuzz with excitement and energy. Our very own teacher band, First Day, Last Day, greeted students with parents on the first day, and students have already gotten back into the full swing of things. CCMS hosted their annual Dragon Camp this August. Incoming 5th graders got the opportunity to meet their teachers and classmates, drop off supplies, learn a little more about the building, play on our playground, start a collaborative art project, and take part in cooperative games. We finished the day off with pizza for lunch. It was an amazing morning. Many thanks to all of our teachers who helped. CCMS was so excited to open our doors to our parents for open house. Parents in grades 5 through 8 had the opportunity to follow their child's schedule, meet their teachers, and learn about all of the programs and activities their child will be able to participate in this year. Band, chorus, and orchestra families learned all about our music program.
Okay. Now for the good news from Cornwall Central High School. We are extremely excited to be back in school at Cornwall Central High School. Although many students were not exactly excited about the new cell phone policy, its implementation has had many positive results. Students are more focused on academics, and a greater interaction between students is evident throughout the building. On the other hand, it has been tricky to adjust to not being able to take pictures on textbook questions or write down important dates. But through the use of planners and lockers, everything is running smoothly.
Similarly, the backpack policy is not the most popular among upperclassmen because many students like to use community lunch as a time to get work done. But as the year is progressing, students are falling into a pattern and adjusting really well to these new rules, and its benefits are apparent. Students are no longer burdened with carrying their backpacks everywhere in the building, and the hallways are less crowded, allowing students more room to sit. Everyone is taking advantage of the free lunch policy, which provides a nutritious breakfast and lunch for all students. Community lunch offers students the perfect opportunity to hang out with friends, even if you don't see them during the day. Student engagement in extracurricular activities has increased as both underclassmen and upperclassmen learn more about activities available at CCHS. National Honor National Honor Society tutoring is set to begin next week, offering students the opportunity to seek help in whatever subject they may need. We also had a celebration of the new Dragon Stadium, a very successful ribbon cutting ceremony, and the first few football games have been great, and the Cornwall Crazies are bringing more spirit than ever. And the senior parking spot paintings were a success with a great turnout and a lot of fun in the parking lot.
Okay, this was the part that I created myself. It was suggested improvements at the high school. I noticed when I was walking through the lunch line that a lot of students, they would buy the lunch solely because it was required to buy like milk and a fruit in order for it to qualify as free lunch. So what I was thinking was like students being given an option to get milk and fruit rather than obligating them to would cause less food to be wasted. Yeah. And then aside from that, I noticed that the lunch lines, they got extremely busy, like in the D-wing hallway and cafeteria. So I was wondering if we could possibly, like, I don't know, have more registers in order for like the process to speed up a little. Yeah. And then another idea that I came up with was for the month of October. It was to start a pumpkin carving contest. Google Form sign up, $10 per team. It can't be a solo project. No more than 6 students per team. Record a video of themselves carving a pumpkin and send it to whoever by October 29, 2025. And then teachers and staff vote on the best pumpkin, and then the students, they would receive like a gift basket. The best pumpkin would receive like a Halloween gift basket on the 31st. And then the money collected from the signups would be the same money used to buy the candy. I just thought it would be like a fun fall project for students. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And I was going to say that we really encourage you to participate in our meetings. If you have questions, if you have anything to add from the student perspective, because we only have a limited perspective, either from what we hear from our kids or from our neighbors. So you being right there, knowing what's happening day to day is really invaluable for us as we try to make decisions and do what's best for students. And Jocelyn, to all of your ideas, I think they sound exciting, and we can talk, I'm sure maybe after or however, in terms of like how we go about setting up the process for discussing them further, implementation, or if possible, et cetera. So I thank you for bringing those ideas here. Any questions? So we're gonna move on to the superintendent update. Megan.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you again, ladies. When I met with them this summer, I had a conversation about, sharing your input. We want to definitely hear from you. We find your take so valuable, so I definitely appreciate it. And Jocelyn, I think you're going to be a busy girl this year. I think you just formed a new committee for yourself. So thanks to everyone for coming out tonight. It's hard to believe that we're already rounding the corner to October. We've had a really positive start in our schools. The vibe is super upbeat. Everyone is pretty excited to be here and to get the year moving forward, which is great. We have some really good news. To announce some All-State musicians who were selected as participants and alternatives in the 25 NYSSMA All-State Conference in Rochester this coming December. Thousands of students auditioned for this honor last spring at solo festivals throughout the state, and these students were selected and will be representing our district. So they all received perfect or near perfect scores on their NYSSMA solos last spring, which recommended them for these ensembles. This is really not a easy accomplishment at all, so it's definitely worth noting. We're very proud of them. Big shout out to Fiala Query for mixed chorus, and Fiala actually sang at last Friday night's opener of the football game. She sang the Star Spangled Banner a cappella, which was absolutely beautiful. Sydney Johnson for mixed chorus, Christian Moyek as an alternative jazz drum set, and also Hudson Alcaran for the alternate trumpet, Hunter Olson for alternate jazz trombone. So we wish the best of luck to all those students. So speaking of last Friday night, we had our official opening of our new athletic complex at the high school with the special ribbon cutting ceremony, and anybody who was there will know how special it was. Dragon Stadium is alive with our students of all ages, families, and community members to celebrate this special event. So I just want to take a moment to thank our community again for their support in realizing this dream for our students, and to share that we can't wait to see the talents come alive in our new stadium. Another new exciting space right here in CES. On your way out, stop by our library. I see Miss Creashy's in the back there, so she's very proud of it. She's been working incredibly hard to get it set back to the way it was, and even better. So take a look at that new space because it's absolutely gorgeous, and we have been waiting for a new library in this building for a very long time, so we're happy to see it here. So, and then just a reminder, as Christine had mentioned, we are closed tomorrow in observance of Rosh Hashanah, so we're just wishing our families a nice holiday and a new year to those who celebrate.
Thank you. President's update. There's not a whole lot. I just want to let the board members know, and the community for that matter, when we get started at the beginning of the year in August, the board does a retreat, and I would say off-site, but it's really on-site, but essentially a working session for all of us to get together, talk about how we're going to function as a board, what are our aspirations for the year, and this year we were committed to doing that more than just once, which has been the pattern in the past. So I just want to ask board members to be on the lookout because we're trying to put some dates on the calendar for the next session before the holiday season, so we can keep that momentum going in terms of what we started back in August. I just also want to take a moment to acknowledge families and community members who continue to engage with us. You'll see in our draft board goals, one of them is community engagement, and we just want to let you know that your input helps, and your comments here helps us guide our decisions and keep us accountable as a board. And while we may not always agree on every detail, we are united in our commitment to the success and well-being of our students. That is why we're all here, is for the students. We will, as we look ahead, we will remain focused on collaboration and making sure our decisions are always in the best interest of the children that we serve. And I'm going to dovetail into a thank you to David Stingle, our audio and visual operator, who, if you'll notice, 2 seconds before we're about to start, audio goes out, and he doesn't break a sweat. I got this, no worries, So we just want to take a moment, David, to thank you. You're sort of, the man behind the scenes, but really making it possible for everyone in our community who can't be here to be a part of this, to hear us, and, really give us an operation that runs so smoothly, never a hiccup. So we appreciate you. David is going to be leaving us. Am I allowed to say? Oh, so he's in a band, which we have to learn more about. So now we can join, the fan page. But he's in a band that has really, gotten successful, and it's getting some traction. So he's leaving us to pursue that more full time. So congratulations, David. All the best. We have something small for you, or so that you'll remember us. Alrighty, now we move into our presentation, so thank you for being patient. Our first presentation is from the EFPR group, our external auditors report for 2024-25.
So
Christian, as the chair of the audit committee, is there anything you'd like to say as we?
I probably make some comments, but I am probably not as qualified as our guest presenter. So I will, let's say, take it away.
I'll just do a quick introduction.
I will say take it away, to be clear.
This is Douglas Zimmerman from the EFPR group who did our external audit. I'm just going to jump over there and do some of his technology because David swung into action this evening because the computer died over there. So we hooked up the laptop and had to do a shift there. So.
Sorry about that. I speak loudly in a room, so I'd forgotten about the online version. So again, I'm Doug Zimmerman, partner with the EFPR Group, and I'm here to review the results of the audit. We did have an opportunity last week to meet with the audit committee. We reviewed the financial statements in detail, certainly answered any questions that they had, and today I'm just going to go over a relatively high-level review of the results of the audit, and certainly be happy to answer anyone's questions. Anytime we perform an audit, we do a risk-based approach. Well before we ever set foot in the district's offices, we take a look at any changes that have occurred, any known operational adjustments. Certainly this year, with the changeover in the department head between Harvey leaving and John coming on board, that was certainly something that we kept in mind as we went through the audit process. We identify significant areas and obtain a detailed understanding of the internal controls in those areas, and certainly internal control is the bedrock of the financial reporting system that you have, and it's the first line of defense on maintaining the appropriate accounting records. And then when we're out in the field, we do certainly test those controls. We're happy to report that based on those controls, we developed detailed audit plans, and there were no needs for any adjustments to those plans as the audit unfolded. So it went really according to plan. And in today, there's certainly a lot of turnover in personnel at districts. We have some that go very smoothly, like quite frankly this one did, and we have other districts that they don't make that change quite as smoothly as unfolded here. And so it's certainly a commendation to John and his entire team that they really didn't miss a beat, from Harvey departing to the new leadership in that department. As far as the results go, we've issued what's called an unmodified or a clean opinion. That's exactly what you'd want to receive as the district, and certainly as board members, to have that comfort that the accounting records are appropriate. And that's not only on the basic financial statements, but there's also a federal grant compliance audit, or more commonly called a single audit. You received over $750,000 of federal dollars. It was about $1.7 million this year, and so there are a whole different set of rules and regulations that the audit has to be conducted under. We also issued a clean opinion on the extra classroom activity funds. All the records, information, everything that we were looking to receive, all the discussions that we had to have with various individuals in the district were freely provided. There were certainly no issues whatsoever in conducting the audit. The results of all those various tests indicated that there were no instances of noncompliance or other matters that needed to be reported under government auditing standards. So as an example, one of the things we look at is there's a New York State law that you cannot have more than 4% in undesignated fund balance. You were at 3.54%. Had you been over that, that would have been a finding in our report. But again, you've complied with that rule as an example. There were also no material weaknesses, deficiencies, or non-compliance matters related to internal control or financial reporting, and no material weaknesses or deficiencies related to the major federal program, what's commonly known as single audit, but is also called uniform guidance. There were two programs that we tested as part of that single audit within the special education cluster. That was the special education grants to states, and then the preschool grants. And again, there's a whole host of compliance requirements that the federal government issues. You're required to comply with those, and as part of the audit, we test whether or not you've complied with those. And again, we're happy to report back that there were no non-compliance issues. That is everything I wanted to cover, and again, I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Questions, comments from the board?
So since we've already talked in the audit committee meeting, but I just want to re-ask a few questions just for the benefit of the public and also some other board members. And I know you're not going to give me a prudential, like which is the best course of action. But one of the things we discussed in the audit committee was what are the alternatives available to a board if they pass the 4% threshold. And I was wondering one of them obviously is to allocate those funds to a reserve, but I asked you about applying that in the budgetary process. And since that was, Jim really asked this question for you because you had asked about what is available in terms of the budget, and if you could just, in a sense, lay out what the alternatives are
Sure, absolutely. So again, the requirement is that you can't have more than 4% of undesignated fund balance for your next year's budget, and so there's a calculation that's done, and a number of boards have been over that over the last several years. A big reason of that was the COVID funding that organizations received. They didn't know exactly how expenditures were going to occur, and so there were a significant number of districts that were over 4%. And as we discussed in the audit committee meeting, you really only have two viable choices. One is to increase funding to the reserves, which we discussed, and the other is to effectively utilize that money as a appropriation for the next fiscal year's budget. Certainly if you have a high overage, we have a couple of districts that are at 8 or 9%, you're not going to go from 8 or 9% to 4% overnight. But what the state ed wants to see is a plan in place to get you from that over number down to 4%. But those are really the only two avenues that you have, and effectively by appropriating that money into the subsequent fiscal year, you'd be reducing the tax burden on the taxpayers, whether it's a reduction or more likely just a lower increase in the tax rate. And again, you want to make sure you're funding the reserve to have healthy, future anticipated needs being met.
Thank you. And I guess my comment is just, this is not really about, first of all, I'm happy that it is a clean report, as we would hope and expect. But several other things when you look at the numbers, you just see some of the trends, and I just think, this may be a point to comment on some of them. And one of them is just kind of where our revenue sources are, that if you include like the STAR refund, almost 40% of our revenues are now sourced from the state, and a declining amount raised by the local tax levy. And this is not, this is just a natural process, and it's not something that happened this year, but I think it's important to point out, like, we are becoming more and more dependent on outside sources of revenue, which we don't control. And another thing that happened is, while it's a large category, the instructional, I think, share dropped by a few percentage point or so, and just in the sense where money is going in the different buckets in the budget. But, I just think those are important to point out as we go into budget season and we have to start making choices and what we are dependent on. And so I'm not sure, I don't think I misstated anything, but... No,
absolutely correct. Yeah. And certainly, a lot of my districts are wrestling with the electric bus issue, whether or not the district maintains its own fleet or is outsourcing. That is certainly something that boards are cognizant of and looking forward to. And, it is a future heavy expense. I mean, I've got some districts that are talking to outside vendors, talking about a doubling of their transportation expense because of the increased costs related to electric. So as board members, you really have to know not only what's happening in the next fiscal year, but what might be occurring, 2 or 3 years out when certain mandates come into be.
If I may just follow on that, just to, since we don't maintain our own bus fleet, we cannot create a reserve fund for electric buses. And you mentioned that it is possible, though not standard, if you maintain your own bus fleet, i.e. that you operate it, some districts have created a fund for future capital expense. But we are not in that position, so we have an outside vendor.
Right, and I've got a couple districts that are wrestling with the idea of setting up a liability fund to fund that. However, there's a lot of ambiguity of whether or not that would even future liabilities for anticipated bus increases would actually fall under that. So it's still something that's up in the air, quite frankly.
And to clarify, so the state does not permit us to do that like some other funds?
Right.
So even if we went into a referendum, it's not a fund we could create? No.
At this point in time, since you wouldn't be purchasing the capital assets of a bus fleet, you really don't have any avenue to set the money aside, if you will, other than being in the undesignated fund. And I've got one district that basically has made it a purposeful intent to go over the 4%, and when the state ed says something, they're basically going to respond that we know this is coming down the road and this is the only avenue we have to set that money aside.
And that would qualify as a spending plan, even though it's not?
I can't give you state ed's answer.
So I appreciate that I'm putting you in a fund, but I mean, I'm just trying to when you mentioned about like a budgetary application
Yeah.
before, is that we need to declare an intent to spend this.
And again, all I can tell you is what I'm seeing is that's the avenue that one district took. The position that they're going to take with state ed that's why we have the money there, because we know this is coming a year and two out. What state ed's reactions to that is, I can't give you the answer to that, but that is something that we have seen.
Thank you, and I apologize. I did not mean to
Oh,
put
no.
you on. I appreciate your professionalism, and I realize you're not here to make prudential or recommendations for how
No.
we spend the money or what is legal, but thank you for your hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
John, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Brendan, I didn't see you.
My one question was going to be down that same road of, based on your work with other districts, what issues do you see that are becoming trends that other boards have to deal with? Whether or not it confronts us or not remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, the two biggest things obviously is the bus issue and transportation that we talked about, and the other thing is just healthcare costs. I mean, some districts are experiencing higher numbers than others, but there's never been there's no increase in your healthcare expenditures from one year to the next with insurance and everything else. I mean, I've got some districts that are being quoted 15 or 20% increases year over year, and it seems like it's been like that as long as I've been doing this job. And you would think someday that number gets ratcheted down to 2 or 3%, but I've never seen it. So those are the two big areas that seem to be of the biggest concern, at least from a fiscal point of view.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Jim?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you to Christian for chairing the audit committee, so I could roll off of the audit committee after 4 years of dedicated service. And thank you, Doug, for the work of you and your team. I've had the pleasure of working with you in the past with the audit committee, and you guys always do a fine job. And just thank you to John. It's tip of the cap to you. You've actually been here less than a calendar year. It seems like longer than that, in a good way, because you've really hit the ground running in your job. But just to navigate the handoff from Harvey to you taking over to be issued a clean audit report is a testament to you and your team. So just wanted to say thank you for your work on this.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you for that, Jim, because I'm going to pick up on that. And Doug had mentioned, taking over for Harvey. So Harvey's still here and around. If you know, he allows me to call him like he's Oz and stuff like that, because I have to figure out what was going on in his brain a lot of the time. So I really appreciate Harvey Sotland for allowing me to pick his brain. But more importantly, the team that I have that I received from Harvey is incredible, and it starts with Celine Maxwell, who's our district treasurer. I said to her when I came on board, I said I need a long runway for this audit. So I need all the information in advance so we can nail this. And she started with me back in the springtime. I drove her bananas on this, and then she, really grinded through the audit in the springtime and in the summer. So I'm incredibly appreciative of her. But it's really the whole office that comes in as well. I'll just name some names and who they are, and thank yous is Stephanie Fuedo, who's my assistant, and that's not an accurate statement or a title for her, and all that she does. And accounts payable, it's Jennifer Cox, watching all the bills. It's incredible. And then you move on over to payroll, Roseanne D'Esposito, Donna Downs, and Helica Roselle Paz. And then Trish in HR with Brent, right? This is the office, and this is the grind, and they do an incredible job. So I am very fortunate and very lucky for all those people. And then to have Doug and Jeff Jones from EFPR come in and just be really pleasant to work with, bounce questions off them, make sure that we're all on the right page. So I'm really appreciative of that.
And I can put this into perspective for you. We do 35 districts, and this is the first public board meeting where we're reviewing the results of the financials. So the fact that you had the turnover and yet you're still, getting to this point, first district out of 35 that we do tells you that everything is functioning extraordinarily smoothly in your business office.
Thank you. Oh, And John, thank you. I won't reiterate exactly what Jim said, but I think being the first out of 35, we should put that on the board somewhere. That's a really great accomplishment. So, and thank you for acknowledging everyone on your team. It's important for us to hear those names and know who the other folks are that are working really hard. So we appreciate you. And thank you for your presentation and all your hard work.
Thank you, Evan.
Christine, not related to this, but just for the members of the audit committee, an email went out regarding a meeting for our internal audit and about there are suggested dates. So if you're on that committee, just so we can finalize a date for our next meeting so we can make the recommendation. It's not as time sensitive as the external audit, but we'd like to get it done.
Thank you. So our next presentation is a buildings and grounds update with Dr. Walter Moran. So we look forward to hearing what's going on in that area.
Thank you, John. So that sounds very weird, Dr. Walter Moran. Well, that's what my family says. So, first of all, I want to thank the district for supporting me on my academic studies, and for those who may not know me, I did confer in May, and I received a doctorate in strategic leadership with Liberty University. Took about 3.5 years. To complete that study, and really what that has done for me is to better manage the men and women within my department, really to offer empathy, understanding, transparency, and really taking leadership and raising the bar on that on an individual level with each and every one of them. And it's made me a better leader, and it's helped me be a better director of facilities for the district. So with that, I will begin. I'll try to make this brief but concise. So this presentation is an operational overview, strategic infrastructure management. Thank you. Ensuring safe, functional, and welcoming learning environments. Okay. So our key points. Our mission is to maintain a safe, clean, and efficient facility for students and staff. I drive that mission home every day with the men and women in the department, the custodial staff, and the maintenance. There's a purpose for what we do, and it's K through 12, trying to get these kids to go through the school district. And what I do with the men and women is when they graduate from high school, and I'm with Catherine as she's walking down the corridor, and you have seen me, and Pomp and Circumstances is playing, and I show them, well, this is what we do. We're helping these students. What we do, you might not realize it, cleaning the classrooms, changing the filters, repairing mechanical systems, but we're helping these students graduate and move on with their lives. And that goes right on to the significance. Well-maintained educational facilities directly impact student achievement. I've learned through my dissertation and through my studies, there is many peer-reviewed journal articles that prove that well-run facilities have a direct impact to the academic success of the students. All right? Contributes to an organization's instructional effectiveness and financial well-being, improve the cleanliness, order, and the safety of the facilities, reduces operating cost and life cycle of the cost of the building, helps staff identify facilities priorities proactively rather than reactively, and that's something that we really want to do as an organization. We don't want to react, we want to be proactive, especially with facilities. We want to have a robust and bold preventative maintenance program. This way we could reach those failures before they happen. This way there's no interruption in the classroom. That's extremely important. And extends the useful life of the buildings and increases energy efficiency. All right, so I want to take a high-level review of our buildings, what they are, the name of the building, the square footage, and the acreage. So the high school was built in '03. It's a little over 200,000 square feet. It's on 51 acres. Kind of take a look at when we clean that building, an average home in Cornwall is about 2,000 square feet. Do the math. That's how many homes that we're cleaning just for that one building. each night for the next school day. All right, the middle school was constructed in 1957 with additions in 1964. That's just about 100,000 square feet, sits on 41 acres. Cornwall Elementary School, it's my favorite building actually, right here. Consists of almost 60,000 square feet, and it's on 8 acres. Willow Avenue. Now, if you take a look at this photo here, you'll notice that the elevator shaft isn't there, all right? This is a dated photo, which helps us identify some of the things that we've done to the buildings as we go along here. That sits on 7 acres. Here's Cornwall on Hudson, built in 1922, almost 40,000 square feet on 7 acres. Notice the windows in the front. Those are the old windows. If you look at the building today, you can see that there are new windows in there. Here's the district office. Sits on 1 acre. And the maintenance building. Now, along with these buildings here, we have press boxes now. We have garages. We have sheds. And we have storage boxes, utility units that we have to maintain as well. So from a high level, here are some of the things that we maintain through our school district. We have 13 boilers, 2 chillers, 1 at the high school and 1 at the middle school, 1 cooling tower, over 100 split AC units. That's what you see right up in here to bring cooling into the rooms. 30 air handlers, over 100 unit ventilators, much larger number than that. 128 variable air volume boxes. That's in the high school only. Catherine, that's in your building. Every classroom has one. Over 80 exhaust fans, 300 plus microcomputers. So every piece of mechanical equipment has a computer attached to it. Buildings and Grounds manages all those computers. Plumbing-wise, over 100 toilets, over 200 sinks, 67 urinals, water fountains, showers, mop sinks. The list goes on. We have to manage these. We get the calls every day, and you'll see when we go through the org chart who we have and how many of those resources we have in order to maintain this. Here's a snippet of our computer application, automated logic. So when you call my office and you say, hey, I'm too hot, I'm too cold, too much air, too noisy, whatever it might be, we go right onto the computer. Here's a little snippet. It tells us everything about that room. We could drill down into the computer and get into the logic and get into the software. We do that right in our office. All right, and then here's another list of the things we do. I won't go through them, but real quick, air filter changes, we strive for 3 a year. All right, every filter being changed 3 times a year. That's unit ventilators and the air handlers. We manage the cafeteria, snow and ice. When everybody gets to roll over in bed, we're out at 4 in the morning. We're doing snow removal, de-icing. Grounds work, playgrounds. District courier, we deliver the mail. We go to the post office. Waste management, not only in the cafeterias, but on the grounds, playgrounds. The list goes on. So it continues, sports fields, parking lots, exterior, interior lighting. We're trying to move everything to LED right now. It gives a little brighter and saves on electrical and energy. Door and hardware, key management. Preventative maintenance, I can't stress enough how important that is. All right, so here's our work order reporting. All right, for the last school year, we did over 5,000 work orders. And I have to tell you, we're not able to capture every work order. A lot of times it's, hey, can you take care of this? Or a phone call comes in, or it's an immediate need. So that number is much higher, but this is what we've captured. On average, we've completed just about 14 a day. Average time open is 33 days. I will tell you, as a director, my goal is 7 days or less. Very difficult to achieve. All right, so right now for this year, I put this on the presentation in the middle of the week. Last week, we were almost up to 1,000 work orders. All right, so here's our department here. Director of Facilities is myself. Well, I have 2 secretaries in the office, 1 head custodian, custodians that work underneath the head custodian, and they're in the building, and they're building managers, and the list goes on. Here's our org chart. If you notice, director reports right to me. It's significant. I have a lot of people that report directly to me. And if you notice, if you go through and you look at the numbers, we don't have enough numbers. I'm surprised our men and women are really able to get the job done. Here's our maintenance staff. These are the repair people. This is when, hey, this isn't working, this is broken, I need a project done. These are the men and women that take care of it. 1 electrician, 1 plumber, 1 locksmith, 1 HVAC technician. Change all those filters, right? 1 person. Imagine having that job. Maintenance mechanics. They're like the shortstop of the district. You know, they do everything. All right, before I get into the key support buckets, what I'd like to say publicly is I want to thank the men and women in the department. All right. These people, they work tirelessly every day. They had 60 days over the summer to pull apart all the classrooms, put them back together, make the floor shine, work with the capital project people, deal with them, clean up after them, work overtime, and then open up the school building in September, which I think, in my 23 years here, was an extremely smooth opening. I'm very proud of how everybody worked and how our department worked. All right, so how I look at the functions of the department is we have these 4 buckets here. Daily operation, project specific. Kelly, that would be like building your library. That would be one of the projects. Scholastic sports, they take a lot of our time. We do great in sports, but there's a need there. We have to give them the support. And of course, capital projects. All right, daily operational support. I'll go through the list real quick. Routine maintenance, okay, includes work orders, responding to immediate needs. Our phone is ringing all day long. There's 7 buildings, rings all day long. We're always responding. We're like first responders. Classroom prep, cleaning and organized classroom each evening. So from 2:30 to 11, the night shift comes in and they clean the classrooms and they prepare it, sanitize it, and get it ready for the next school day. Waste management, you wouldn't think that that was a big part of our job, but we have to manage the cafeterias and we have to manage the grounds. All right, also safety checks. That's a whole nother presentation. Here's our next bucket, project specific, planning and execution. Hey, I want this, I need air conditioning here. Hey, I want a new library, or hey, I want a home ec room, or we need security vestibules. All right, what are the drawings, what are the design, do the engineerings. We all do that right back in our office. So here are some examples. Library media room. Catherine, that's what I'm calling it. That was in your library. We were able to do that. Renovate staff parking and fire access road behind the high school. Work with the contractors on the auditorium sound system. Home and careers classroom. Oh, by the way, we got a ship date on those cabinets. They're coming in. Baseball field renovation. All right, here's a big one. Cornwall and Hudson fire alarm. So those who remember, Central Hudson had a power outage in Cornwall the 2nd week of August. It took out the fire alarm in Darren's building. If we would have went out and bought that work, it would have been well over $100,000. We did that in-house. Our men and women installed the fire alarm at Darren's building. We saved the district $100,000. Cafeteria and kitchen air conditioning in this room next door, and of course the security vestibules. Scholastic sports, field and gym maintenance, ensuring safe, high-quality athletics facilities for practices and games. All right, event coordination, setup, breakdown, pre and post. Weekend and holiday work, overtime, to support our scholastic sports. all right, and coordinating with the athletic director. We're always in conversation, even on the weekends. All right, here's just a multitude of areas that we manage: field prep, pre and post management, field painting. A significant amount of buildings and grounds resources goes to support the scholastic athletic program. So think about all the things that we listed prior, and now everything with the sports, and try to get everything done. All right, and then capital project support. Yes, we have an architect, we have engineers, we have designers, and we have a construction manager, but they don't know the buildings as well as we do. Our team shares our knowledge with the design and construction team. We work overtime to keep buildings open like tomorrow. They're working in several buildings. We offer problem solving and other mission critical input on the various phases. Hey, this isn't going to work. Hey, you need to tie this in here. Did you ever think about this? It's not only me who is having that conversation, but we work together as a team. All right, so our challenges, what are our challenges? All right. We're challenged to attract skilled staff to fill open positions. Right now, with everything we do, we have 6 open positions. It's been very challenging to fill them. Also, I'd like to see, and what's a challenge, is we need to increase staffing levels to cover personal time off and overtime needs. It's the same people working overtime each week. So you'll have one individual working 6 days a week for months on end. Staff retention, due to competitive salary at neighboring school districts. A lot of times, staff comes on board, they're hired here, Goshen, Washingtonville, another school district, pays more money, that's where they're going to go. Okay? It's a challenge. All right? Training and professional development requirements. So one thing that I've learned through my academic studies, it's important that we continue professional development and training similar to how the teaching staff develops their professional development. The challenge that we have is we don't have the time. Time isn't incorporated in their contract or afforded to them, so I have to be very creative when I do that development with my men and women that are in the department. Aging infrastructure. We've done a lot, but there's still a lot more to go. You'll see once the building condition survey data is revealed, and we discuss some of the items on that. You'll see we'll need to continue to address this. Even when I'm gone, the next generation capital projects need to continue in order to really bring these facilities up to where they need to be. And budget constraints, increasing contract and supply costs. You feel it at home, think about how the budget that I manage, it's a 30 to 60% increase in a lot of our supplies and contracts. Our short-term goals, professional development for staff, work order management. I have to meet the needs of the men and women in the department. I have to continue to train with them, and I have to support them so they can support us. That's very, very, very important for me to do. Long-term vision, address the building condition survey needs. Soon the architect will be meeting with the board and the facility committee, and we'll be reviewing those items. The development of next year's budget and hiring and staffing needs. Okay. Try to do that as quick as I could. Any questions from the board, the dais? I know you have a question, right? You have a question? No? Yes, you do. You have a question. Anyone? Yes.
Questions?
Everyone. So I just have a question. Since you mentioned about our facilities, and as
Thank you.
you know, some of our facilities are 100 or near 100 years old. And I say this from my own experience in a different district, which is that the original high school became the middle school and now is an oversized elementary school in Lakeland School District. And I think Ms. Fazio knows it well because I think she taught in that building before she taught here in Cornwall. And the common point that was made is that it really was not appropriate to be an elementary school because of the vertical construction of some of the secondary buildings. And so R2, particularly Willow and COH, are multi-floor buildings because they were built as K through 8 or K through 12 buildings originally. And how does that function, or what are the issues that might come up with small children who have to manage stairs, where most elementary schools are designed to be one floor flat for that reason.
Well, it is a challenge. Willow Avenue, for example, has 5 different levels. It's been a high school, it's been a middle school, and if you are walking on the original stairs, you can see they're worn out. So, you know, the question is, and this should be with New York State Education Department, is there a certain time frame when you put a school building to sleep? You put it to bed, and then you construct a new one with the current technology. That's far, you know, but beyond me, unless I go to a think tank years from now. But it really would be, you know, up to the board on the vision that you guys see. Where do you want to take your school buildings, and how do you want those school buildings to offer education to the students?
Just kind of a follow-up question, as you probably know, since you've been working in the district and living in the community for a very long time, that there was a committee, I think 20 years ago, recommending that Willow Avenue be closed as a school building. And if you could just comment, like, what have we done since then to make it? Obviously, it still is. And
well, I think you're referring to the 21st Century Committee. I believe
yes,
so.
I think it was like
1998.
That would be. I don't know exactly the year, but that sounds correct.
So yeah, so it was a good. They used the SWOT format. They had some really good dialogue. Dr. Dames at the time, you know, ran that committee. They came. You know, they offered many good solutions, and what you see today with the K through 4, 5 through 8. And then the high school configuration all came out of the 21st Century Committee, moving Willow Avenue, which was a middle school, over to the formerly known as the high school, which is now the middle school, and then moving the high school out to where it is now with the wider corridors and et cetera. All came out, was derived from that committee, the 21st Century Committee.
And if I could just add too, I mean, over the years, the buildings have evolved into what we need them to be. So Willow Avenue, for example, Mrs. Buckholtz has created a really nice K2 primary wing downstairs with 3-4 upstairs for more appropriate as the kids get older. And then the other side of the building is for like academic intervention services and related services and so on. So, you know, these are the buildings that we have, and we evolve them to the kids that are in it for the most appropriate situation possible.
Other questions?
I just want to start with a comment. Walter, thank you. I know you did it. That was very gracious of you to thank everybody else, but there are many impressive things about this district, many impressive people. I'm just speak to you from my own experience. There is no one more impressive than Walter. I mean, truly, a PhD only like begins to cover it. When you're in facilities meetings, you cannot gotcha him. Yeah. And I've just seen this continually in my time on the board. And I know that when I first started getting involved in this stuff, we had just had our capital projects voted down. We were in a pretty tenuous time in this district. I remember a meeting here that you stood up and said, basically, I will make sure this district stays afloat, facilities-wise. And I know that was a bold promise to make at the time because so much needed repair. And nobody is more responsible for where we were then and where we are now than Walter. So you don't get these moments to acknowledge that, so I just wanted to take this moment to do so. Speaking of which, first, can you share this presentation with either with Christine, or I would love to have particularly your next steps or requests slide, just to so we can look back on that, budget times and whatnot. And then particularly about the professional development, can you expand just a little bit on, as you said, it's so much more obvious where to find these kinds of resources for teachers, and I think that's what we're more familiar with. But what would be required in your mind, and what kind of resources are you looking for?
Well, first of all, thank you. But I only lead the team, okay? And so the thanks has to go to the men and women, all right? They're the soldiers that are out there making this happen. So I'm very appreciative of that, but there's a whole bunch of people behind me that are working and supporting me, but thank you very much. The professional development. So here's what I have found, and I think the teachers in the audience would agree what I'm about to say. So the technical aspect about professional development is the easy part, all right? I could teach somebody how to fix something. I could teach them how to do a PM on a air handler or something. The most important thing is the social emotional wellness of my men and women, all right? Because they're human beings, and they have lives, and they bring their lives to work with them, all right? And my goal is to get them to work, to have them functioning at the best, whatever the best is for that particular day, and to go home the same way that they came to work. So what I have found is the interpersonal relationships that they have, not only with me, the director, but with each other, and getting along with each other and collaborating and creating those teams and creating that cohesiveness between the teams, so they could problem solve and they have a sense of belonging, and there's psychological safety within the department, and the culture is one that supports the men and women. That's the professional development that works. The ABCs, or the 1, 2, 3s, that's the easy part. It's really how do you get along? How do you trust the leaders, right? This is what I have found is the most critical. So for the last couple of weeks, here's what I've been mentoring my men and women. Separate the signal from the noise. Every morning I say that. Yet we have 85 things we need to do. What 4 things are we going to do today? We're going to do it right. We're going to get it done. Don't let the noise get in the way of the signal. What is your core mission for the day? That's the professional development that I'm talking about. I've had a couple of applications. I put them in front of computers. It's better that if I have a one-on-one or if I have a 10-on-1 and I'm working together with them, all right? And I've been doing this now for probably 5 or 6 years, and I've seen the progress with the men and women, and I've seen the results. So that's what I mean about professional development.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim?
So again, I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment. Since we have some folks in the audience, we have a larger audience than we normally have tonight. We've been talking about this a little bit as we move on through the year, but just, you know, dovetails nicely with your presentation. So first of all, thank you, Walter, for what you do and your team. You know, what strikes me about your team is when you see them out and about, there's always a smile and a hello. So they're not just doing a good job, but they are enjoying their work and interacting with the community and with the students. But just, you know, for the community that's here, and you can go back and spread the word. Brendan mentioned capital projects. We've seen that we have buildings that are, with the exception of the high school, all the other buildings are 50 to 100 years old. They're actually over 100. COH is now over 100 years old. We are meeting as a facilities committee 1 week from tonight to go over the results of our 5-year building condition survey. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We have money in the capital reserve to do it, and we plan to present a list of projects to the community to vote on in the springtime to just carry out some more of the capital projects. With all the aging infrastructure that we have, there's lots of work that needs to be done in this district. It's been a pleasure in my time on the board to work with you on that process, and just, you know, for the community, look forward for that vote in the spring to help continue to maintain our buildings. Thank you.
I have a question if no one else does. Anyone? Walter, you mentioned you have 6 openings. Are those openings captured in your org chart, or are those 6 plus? Okay.
Yes.
And not to answer here and now, but I would be curious, I'm sure Dr. Harrington, you know, in terms of how long are those spots open? What is the pay differential for the surrounding ones? And, you know, why are people leaving? It's not always just money. I mean, maybe it is, but if it's a adjustable fix, maybe that's something to look at. And again, not to answer now, but just, you know, that's the lens I look at it through. So, yeah, because 6 is a lot, you know.
It is. It is. I have 3 candidates right now that are going through the process. I'm hoping that we could close the deal, bring them on board, and hire them. And there's 2 other in the runway. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Walter Moran.
Oh,
You
please.
worked hard, use
Yes.
it, you know?
Well-
But thank you, and
Yeah.
thank you for all that you do.
All right. Well, I appreciate the support. It means a lot, and to the men and women, thank you.
Okay, so now we move on to our consent agenda, new business. Would anyone like to pull any of the items from our consent agenda?
I would like to pull number 4 and number 12, simply for purpose of abstaining, no comment.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Eleanor?
I would like to pull number 3, and I can't hear Christian, but I think he said 12. I'd like to pull 12 as well.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. The consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover these relatively routine matters which are included. Could I please have a motion to approve consent agenda items 2, 5, 6, 2, 5 through 11, 13, and 14? May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Brendan with a motion, Christian with a second. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion passes. Okay, let's go to consent agenda item number 3, personnel actions. This is where I get tripped up. Do I have to do a motion again? A motion, can I have a motion to approve personnel actions item number 3?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion?
Okay, so the reason I pulled it is it seems that we created a position that was not in the original budget. So I guess my question is more to John. When you gave us the budget presentation in the fall before the budget vote, this was not part of the budget, and we had to make a lot of tough choices when we were creating that budget, and we ended up cutting some positions last May. And so I'm just curious why we're adding a position now, and I guess where did the funds come from since they weren't budgeted. This position wasn't budgeted in the original budget that we created in the spring. So that's the first part of my question, if you want to answer that, and then I have more.
Sure, no problem. We did budget for this when I came on board in December. The audit committee had heard from the internal auditors about some concerns they brought to the district office about separation of duties that was taking place in HR and payroll. So at that time, in the transition with Harvey, it was a recommendation to add personnel because in the corrective action plan, the response the district provided was, we are thin, we don't have the staff to do the work. So we budgeted for a part-time position for that position in HR and benefits to create the separation of duties. While the auditors didn't say you should add the position, it's implied in what they were writing us up for.
Okay, but then why wasn't it in the budget? In the presentation, like this position wasn't there, the amounts of money wasn't in the funds that we were presenting as our budget in the spring.
This is again, a part-time position, so it's maximum of $35,000. It was beneficial to us because the payroll person was retiring, and that we could keep that payroll person on board in a part-time capacity with not paying additional benefits and paying a low amount of money for them.
Oh, I'm not questioning the need for it. I guess what I was questioning is that it wasn't in the budget, and one of the things we took out was our strategic plan. And as I said before, also cutting other positions. So I was just confused when I looked at the agenda that there was a position now that was put back in that wasn't in that original budget. And I'm sorry, Christian, I just realized that I think I cut you off a couple times, so I'll stop talking now.
I just feel like, so, with due respect, because I was on the audit committee in the presentation last year, and you had not come, but I think that, so, and I spoke about this extensively at the time when I made the recommendation early October. The auditor, as you said, cannot make a recommendation for like what we should do. They point out a issue that needs to be addressed. And the issue at the time was that the same person could create a payroll position and authorize payment to that position. And that was a challenge of internal control, because the point is someone could create a job for theoretically not really happening, but let make that clear, is like, okay, I'm gonna hire my my uncle, I'm gonna create a position, and then I can authorize the payment. And given our software, that was done by the same person. The corrective action plan that was passed, and I talked about this pretty extensively, I believe in the first meeting of October of last year, was that they would look at changes when there was a difference in your payroll from pay period to pay period, and those would be specifically addressed, and that the superintendent has to sign off on every payroll, I believe, and that would be the check that was in the correction action plan. And the recommendation that was made at the time was that it would be uneconomical to hire a person simply because we're talking about internal control, which is just that you don't want the same person to, in a sense, authorize a check and then make the decision and also authorize the payment. And the question is whether that is worth $35,000 when there are other things, such as smaller things that had to be done in the budget process, such as substitute teacher pay, seats for UPK. So I understand we passed that, but the point is that we didn't do that in the middle of the year. We did that because it's a decision about how to allocate district resources. So as someone who made that report, that seems, and it was on video from the meeting, I don't think that was a recommendation of the committee, and there was a reason for that. So this is not, I guess what my point here is that there is a proper, I guess, this should be in the budget process. We make decisions to do certain things, we make decisions not to do certain things. All of them are kind of worthy, and that priority means that this should be given the same scrutiny as other things that might have been a priority in the budget process. And I think that is the point that Ms. Fazio is making about this should not be something, we did this in the previous year, where in the budget there was a part-time or to make a physical education teacher full from a .8 to a full FTE, and it was not in the budget because people wanted to have a budget number in terms of the tax levy. And I'm not describing motives to anyone, but the point is then it was put onto the budget during the summer, and that just does not seem like the best practice. And I think we should go forward thinking about where those decisions are made. Now, I said at the time that I support creating this position because we do have a lean staff in the district office, particularly in the business office, and it is amazing the quality of work they do, given how small it is compared to some other comparable districts. So I do think this is a need. I just want to make sure that we do this in, I think, the proper channels, which means that it's transparent, because what about the person who didn't get their program, and why does this get priority over that, is a question that I think any member of the community could make, and that's what I would urge us to do going forward.
And I think that thank you, Christian. I think that was the point I was trying to make is, I'm not saying it's not necessary. I just was a little taken aback when I saw it because it was not part of the budget presentation. And as someone who was a teacher in the district for many years, I can speak to the fact that many times we were denied, or principals were denied, needs that they had because it was not in the budget, and we're told it wasn't in the budget. So, I think the point that Christian just said is that the priorities, this, I guess, has become a priority, but then how do we go forward and tell other people that their needs are not a priority as well?
Okay, Eleanor.
It just, it wasn't in the budget, and yet now here it is.
Other
So-
comments? Oh, sorry.
So my apologies. It was my understanding that this was addressed and that the position was discussed because, again, the auditor is not saying you have to add the position, but there was an advantageous opportunity to take a retiring veteran payroll person to utilize them in this capacity and help train our payroll staff and HR staff at the same time. So again, my apologies to the board. This was in the 25-26 budget. We did have it in there. So yeah, I do apologize
So,
for not calling
it
that
was
out.
ex-
Just for
so- Well, if I could just clarify, it was in there, but it was, I'm just clarifying for me, you didn't have it called out on the sheet with like, these are the additions.
Correct.
But it was baked into the overall number.
Correct.
Entirely. And I would assume that if we have a full-time person who's been here for a number of years retiring, there is some cost savings in terms of replacing that person, the delta. Is that a fair assumption?
is I was curious why we are going to a 4-year contract as opposed to, I don't know, I guess that was my question.
Can I answer that? Yeah. So it's a 3-year contract, okay, which is consistent with our other, all but one other non-aligned employee in the district, right? So when we did our non-aligned contracts following the settlements with our collective bargaining agreements in the spring, the board made a decision to align those contracts in terms of the number of years with the clerical unit, which is 3 years. So all of our non-aligned employees, with the exception of one, is on a 3-year contract.
Thank you. Alrighty, may I have a motion then to combine items 3 and 12 from our consent agenda?
So moved.
Brendan, may I have a second?
Second.
Jim, all in favor of approving items 3 and 12 on our consent agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. That leaves item number 4, placement of CPSE and CSE. May I have a motion to approve this placement?
So moved.
Christian, a second?
Second.
Richard, all in favor? Excuse me, discussion?
So I pulled just
To
to
abstain.
abstain.
Okay.
There's no discussion.
Okay. All in favor of item number 4, placement of CPSE and CSE cases?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Thank you. The motion passes. Okay, so that is the consent agenda in total. Thank you, everyone. Now we're on to new business, non-consent agenda. Everyone has in front of them a copy of the draft board goals, and Linda, thank you. She posted it on our board docs as well. This email was sent out to the board on September 12th, where everyone was asked to take a look, add any comments, suggestions, corrections, and let me back up. This is a result of the work we did at our working session. If you weren't here for that, we had posters around the room. We were walking around with stickers and markers, and so everyone had some input in terms of what rose to the top for the Board of Education in terms of what we wanted to focus on this year. And the main categories are pulled directly from the New York State Board as well as the National Board Association in terms of board's responsibilities. So with that, I asked everyone to take a look at it, provide any commentary so that we could come to this meeting prepared to discuss further. As of today, I did not see any notes on the document, but if I missed them, I welcome the discussion. And then, based on our discussion today, we can just determine what we're going to do in terms of the next steps at our next meeting. So, does anyone have any questions, comments?
So thank you for the very creative exercise that went into the creation of this. That was very helpful. Made us all, and the pictures made us all look like we were in like our first week of kindergarten, which kind of feels like that sometimes. So I have one suggestion that, and I apologize for not getting it to you earlier. Sometimes things just, hit you too late. So under the instruction, the Advanced Student Achievement and Equity, so we're currently saying ensure instructional programs are designed to raise achievement and close opportunity gaps. One thing that we often talk about with equity is giving, is just as described, like closing gaps. But I think I'm going to look at it through another lens or expand it, and it's in particular how it relates to the differences in the schools. And this is something that is a trend that has been going on for years. I think we're all aware of it. CES has continued to grow. It's the one with the more space. And I just want to ensure that we have on our radar as a board that we are making sure that that the experience I'm using this school as an example, but all the schools mirror the others, so that kids in one school are not getting a different experience, are not getting exposure to different programs that these kids get. I am the youngest of 5. My father would always say, I'm not going to do for one that I can't do for all, which is probably why we got the shaft so often. But I don't want to have that same. It was usually used as an excuse to say no. So I just want to be sure that we're observing that. So that's a long prelude to an actual suggestion. Ensure that the instructional and enrichment programs, are designed to raise achievement, close opportunity gaps, and are made accessible to all. Often thinking of, how does this relate to the board? Because I know we can create or write goals that aren't really something we can impact. But I think that this is written in a way that we can, because these are funding decisions that we can keep in mind and look back on this, particularly during budget season, but at any opportunity that we get.
And that's a really important point. If any of this language sends the message that we're going to actually be doing something, other than budget related, we probably want to fix that a little bit, because these are things that we would support, we would, clear the path for, et cetera. So, thank you for pointing that out. Other comments, additions, questions?
So I guess my, ideal would be that these were more measurable. But as I said to you privately when we had the agenda meeting, I think these are good enough to go ahead as they are, and that they're not going to get tremendously better for more discussion. But I'll just say my regret from our goals from last year is that there were many items that were in our goals that clearly were not necessarily pursued. So, and I'm not blaming us, I'm just saying we need to make sure that we actually are not just posting these goals and they stay there on the website, but they actually do influence our decisions and they're our commitment, as you said. So like on last year's goals, one was the capital project for a variety of reasons that did not happen last year. UBK was one of the goals that didn't happen. Strategic planning was one of the goals that didn't make it into the budget, it was cut. And so the point about it is when we set goals, we're also probably setting priorities, and that, that they don't get lost to other priorities that we develop in the flow. And that's part of the reason to have goals, is to kind of allow ourselves to mark our progress to market, that these are things we committed to do and measure our progress against them. And I think that's why you want them to be measurable. It's not because of intent. I think these are all worthy goals. But I just think that in our process, in our board retreat, in our board self-evaluation in mid-year, that we actually revisit these and ask ourselves whether we are actually following what we set out to do.
Yeah, I think you can ask people I work with. I'm the master of measurables, key deliverables. How do I know we succeeded at the end of the year? What does success look like? Did you want to add something, Jamie? Sorry. No, I'm all for that, but everyone's got to put work into that, right? In terms of what does success look like? What's the measurable goal? And I'll just add that I did look at a lot of other boards and their goals, and not that, it's not to say if that's right, it's right, but I found a lot of boards were more generalized like this, because I agree, Christian, I think last year we had strategic planning. That was a clear goal, we wanted to do it, and then when budget came, we said, we're going to cut it, and we didn't have to do that. We didn't have to cut it. So I erred on the side, and what I presented as possibilities were more general in terms of what was going to guide our decision making. Certainly open to refining those, sharpening the pencil, and making them more specific. That just would require everyone to put in some time.
I was just going to say, I agree with you, Christian. They should be measurable, but I think next steps will determine how to measure. Hello? Oh, there we go. Sorry. I was just saying I agree with what you were saying. They should be measurable. They have to be measurable, but I don't think we can say how we can measure them until we determine next steps. I think talking about next steps, how we're going to enact them, then we can take it a step further and say, and this is how we'll measure our success by the end of the year or whatever. That's it.
And I'll add that if we approve these, that is not to say we can't come back and revisit them with refined language, right? In terms of, for instance, I know policy development and oversight. I know that is a big focus in terms of making sure they're all aligned and correct, and I know that's a passion of yours, Christian. We could probably come up with a deliverable on that pretty easily, in terms of what that might look like at the end of the year. So, I would offer that we can do that as we go as well. Other comments, Jim?
So I'll make my annual comment during this process that we need to have a strategic plan, and that this process is not a great process every year. hats off to you guys for coming up with a different way to do it. I guess my question is, I kind of have, so I will say I have no problem with any of these as written. I think they're all laudable and well written. Everything's fine. They're not super measurable. To me, they're more trending towards mission vision type than goal type. So what is the goal of our goals? I think our goal process is not good. I think we need to have strategic planning as a district, and then we'll have better goals fall out of that. So I guess I'll make that and reiterate that comment, and hopefully we will launch strategic planning and budget for that.
And if I can just piggyback on what you just said, Jim, I think you've heard about, we've come back to the need for a strategic plan and many different people and different things, and I think that there is a desire for it. And I know in the budget discussions last year, this was something that you put onto the budget, and and certainly I personally support, because for the same reasons I think you value it. It allows us to kind of think in a longer term perspective, and allows people to evaluate what we're doing as opposed to kind of the drifting that might occur when we're responsive to events. And I think we certainly should perhaps spend some time this year thinking about that, since it has come up by so many different people, and whether that's something that independent of the budget process we can take another hack at.
Anyone else? I think it was my first meeting at the board at the high school where I said we need a strategic plan, because otherwise we are just kind of doing the best we can do, I will say I talked to John Fink about the current budget, and if there is a way to work strategic planning, more to come on that discussion, but I have started to explore what could be presented to the board as options, because I do think, and it's up to all of us, but I do think it's something worth at least pursuing as a discussion earlier this year, rather than waiting for the end of the year for the budget, because that just means we're starting again next year, right? So it is critically important. I will challenge everybody, Jim, not to put you on the spot, but in terms of facilities, right? There's some stuff on here about facilities. We could go back and say, okay, how are we going to involve stakeholders more in that process, And so I'm not picking on you, but that's just a concrete one when I see it, more so than some of the vaguer ones that might be on here. So we can continue to evolve these as we go. Same with the finance, et cetera. So I think our best way forward is to vote on these at the next meeting. Okay, to put them on the agenda for the next meeting to vote on them. In the meantime, if anybody wants to add some measurable elements to them, you can just shoot me an email or add it to the document, or I'll post this document because this is edited a little differently. You can add it to that so that it's refined by the next meeting. But I think this is a good way forward, right? It's not progress, not perfection. That's what I like to say sometimes. So I thank you for all your input, and we're gonna get this done. Thank you. Alrighty, and our final portion, recognition of visitors at the end of the meeting. The board, if you were here earlier, this is a repeat, but the Board of Education welcomes comments from the public. Each person wishing to speak is asked to speak into the microphone, identify themselves, and respectfully limit their comments to 3 minutes. 2 opportunities to speak. This is the second part of the meeting. You may address the board only once, and there is no cross-dialogue between the board and members speaking. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene language, libelous statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. Persons wishing to discuss matters involving individual district personnel or students should present their comments and/or concerns to the superintendent during regular business hours. Would anybody like to make a public comment? You can step forward. There's microphones at the end of each table. To ask that question before I read off the whole big slew of rules. Alrighty. I didn't write it in my notes. Do I have to motion to? Yeah. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Jim, may I have a second?
There are closing comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I almost got out. Closing comments from the board. I'm so sorry. That's okay. So Maeve, we have closing comments at the end of each board meeting. I won't start with you to put you on the spot, but if you're welcome to provide a closing comment at the end. So we'll come back to you. You can kind of hear how it goes and see if there's anything you'd like to add. But it's typically just an opportunity for each board member to share whatever is relevant to them or related to the meeting itself. So, Jamie, you're first.
All right. I just wanted to thank Dr. Moran again. I feel like I learned a lot, and I'm excited for you to share that presentation so I can go over the numbers again. It's all new to me, and I felt like it was really insightful, so thank you. And Christine, I'm really excited to work on these goals and make them measurable with you, and I think that's it. Thank you all.
Hi. First thing I want to do is I wanted to thank Megan for the excellent job you did over at the ribbon cutting ceremony. I think you did a great job there. Visitation's going to be meeting next week at 7:30 right here. We'll keep you posted on everything through emails. And my last thing is reminders of events coming up. And on the 31st, we have one at the elementary Halloween parades, all elementary schools. The CCHS fall drama production, that'll be 11/7 to 11/9. Now, the first one is going to be at 7 o'clock. That'll be 11/7 and 11/8. That'll be at 7 o'clock, and the 9th will be at 2 o'clock. And then they're going to have the multicultural night, 11/13, 5 to 7. And the last one, I'm going to try to do this every month, different ones, but just to keep everybody posted because I need it. National Honor Society induction night, that's 11/25 at 6 o'clock. And that's it.
All right. First, welcome to our new student reps. Thank you for staying this long. I know it's late, but we all look forward to hearing from you this year and, getting that true student perspective. I want to thank and recognize David and wish you well. Like she said before, you're the reason that we can be broadcasted, and everybody can hear us, and that we're transparent. So thank you for your 5 years service. So thank you. And just a reminder, I did send out an email, I believe last week, for the NISPA ballot. I'm requesting everyone to fill that out, please. So far, I've gotten one. You still have time, but just a friendly reminder to get that done. And with that...
What's the deadline, Richard?
I think it was the 10th, but okay. I'll double check. October 10th, please have it.
I was thinking it was next week. The way you said that, I was like, oh no.
Well, I'll keep reminding you. But anyway, have a good night.
Jim? He had his words. Brenton.
Yes, Maeve and Jocelyn, obviously, thank you for stepping up, and we look forward to all the contributions that you're going to make. And welcome aboard. David, just double, triple everything everyone has said. Good luck. Hope that we are a very small part of the your biography one day when they tell of all of your where did he come from. And thank you for all of the great service over the years. It's been the community. I'm sure the community would thank you if they were here, which some of them actually are. Walter, again, can't say enough. I'll try at every opportunity, but yeah, you've done an extraordinary service to this district, and thank you for great presentation tonight, as always. Regarding the ceremony, Megan, fantastic job. John, thank you. John was running around shepherding us across the field, concealing his frustration that we wouldn't really listen in an admirable way. Thank you for that. And finally, it's that time of year we're all having the back to school nights. This is one of the I try to, as a parent and board member, really separate those two, but it's always difficult when it's something like this. You want to just brag about your kids' teachers and schools and everything. So I'll take liberties in this one moment and wear both hats. But I was just so impressed. So I have a fourth grader here at CES, last year at CES, which is, itself kind of hard to believe. I have a seventh grader at the middle school, and I am always impressed, but this year I was just blown away. Maybe I was just in a better mood both days, frankly, but just top to bottom. Everyone I interacted with, every teacher that gave a presentation, everyone, it just fills you with a lot of confidence and gratitude, frankly, as a parent, when you see the level of professionalism that these people have and the passion. It's one thing to be good at your job. It's another thing to love your job, which kind of makes you better at it as well. So could not be happier with just the very unofficial reporting that I have to bring back from the schools, and very excited for the year to come.
Yeah, okay. Maeve, anything? Oh, Eleanor, I'm sorry. Sorry, Eleanor. You good? Okay. Maeve?
You can let me go.
I just want to say thanks again for having us. I know Jocelyn had to leave, but I know I speak for both of us when I say we're really excited to work with you guys this year. And thanks again to Mrs. Argenio for the ribbon cutting ceremony. I know, and a lot of people can speak to this, yeah, especially the seniors, I know, but it's just the football games have never been more fun. And I know it's a lot and it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it really is just the sense of pride and unity with the new field and with just everything has been great. So thanks again.
Eleanor, I'm sorry, you said you have something?
No, that's okay. I was letting Maeve go because she was already started.
Okay.
So I want to welcome our two high school students that have joined us. And Maeve, if you can please extend my hello to your parents and give your sister a big hug for me, I would appreciate that. I also would like to thank our presenters for tonight. They did a great job. Congratulations to our students and our teachers and staff for having a wonderful start to the school year. And Shana Tova, Happy New Year to all of our friends out there in our district and beyond who are celebrating starting this evening.
Thank you. Christian?
So a lot to reflect on the last few weeks, and one thing that I was reflecting on is, George Orwell, who famously survived being shot through the neck during the Spanish Civil War. And he was very clear in many of his writings about the criticism of those who romanticize political violence, particularly in his essays Inside the Whale and also Homage to Catalonia. But he also, very much in the same way, in his essay on Charles Dickens, made a very point that simply being nicer to each other is not really a solution to a lot of problems, and attributed that to Charles Dickens, and I think it would be instructive to read that. The second thing it just published this morning was an essay about, kindness and niceness, and I'm just going to read a selection from that. What does it mean to be truly kind? Being nice is all about how you wish to be viewed, whereas being kind means doing what is right, never mind the optics. Nice is telling your friend her speech is fantastic. Being kind is pointing out that it's filled with bad jokes, none of which will work with the intended audience. Being nice can be actively harmful. When it's disingenuous, it's a superficial kind of action. It leads us to do hurtful things because our focus is on ourselves and how others perceive us. Kind people, on the other hand, often cause scenes. They stand up for what's right. They put themselves out and do not worry about their personal convenience. They rarely concern themselves with how other people see them. Their energy goes on to doing the right thing, no matter how difficult that might make them make things for themselves. And it reminded me of a book that called Beautiful Souls, written by Yale Press. And it was all about what enables people to do the right thing in difficult situations. And he looked at a variety of different people who saved Jewish refugees during World War II, whistleblowers. And it was a book that was read in Penn State, required reading for their freshmen, after the Jerry Sandusky scandals. And he made a very interesting, conclusion. He says the people who do the right thing are not saints. They're not heroes. They're almost universally people who are very difficult, who are not well-liked, very curmudgeonly, because their superpower is the fact that they do not care what other people think. And in that meaning, they are able to do the right thing in that situation. And I've always had, because I share something with Yale Press, because our formative moment with political violence is the same. I went to school in Buffalo, and I'll just say a name, and then Arnold Slepian. And if you're not familiar with the name, that's part of the point. So in 1998, Arnold Slepian was shot in his kitchen. He was an OBGYN. After coming home from a memorial service for his father at his synagogue, he went home, he was preparing his dinner, and he was shot through from someone waiting in the bushes that shot him through the window. And the bullet not only just killed him, but also almost killed his son, who was standing right next to him, his wife as well. And the reason why is that I was in Buffalo at the time, and I knew that neighborhood very well. And Amherst, New York was the safest town in New York State at the time. And Yale Press was in high school, the son of another OBGYN in Buffalo. And he wrote a memoir about what it was like to live through that experience. And so I think it's kind of like when we think about political violence, there's a lot this was a time before Columbine, before social media, before polarization, before the internet as it is today, but very much a similar type of incident that occurred in the last few weeks. And it should make a reflect about, even if you look how people reacted to that and what people said in the wake of that. And I think it would be instructive to us to reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. I quickly Googled because you made a comment about kindness and defining it, and one of my favorite, and if I could piggyback on that, if you don't mind, one of my favorite things about kindness is from Brene Brown, who's a social psychologist, and she emphasizes that kindness is a sign of courage and strength, not weakness. And she states that clear is kind, being clear is kind, being unclear is unkind, highlighting that direct communication fosters healthy relationships. And she goes on to talk about, self-kindness, etc. But really, it's something that I even talk about at work as it relates to, when you're giving feedback, when you're trying to help somebody be the best version of themselves. We try to be gentle, but that's not necessarily being kind, because it's not, to what you described, it's not necessarily telling the truth or giving them a view in terms of, what may be most helpful. So thank you for reminding us of that. And with that, I will take a real motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Jim.
Second.
Brendan, second. Do we have to vote? Or just close? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion to close passes. Thank you.